Remain standing for the invocation. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather to conduct this business of our city. We pray that you will guide us as we make these decisions tonight and watch over and guide each person in our community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Davis. Graham.
Here.
Candia.
Here.
Day.
Here.
Mayor Martino.
Present. Okay, number 5, declaration of conflict of interest. There being none. Item 6, ceremonial matters. Tonight we have 2 speakers that are going to make presentations to the council. The first one will be a presentation by Stanislaus County Health and Recovery Services regarding the roles and responsibility of the County Mental Health Board. And Rita Sidnikoff, would you...
Mayor.
Yeah, Mayor, we're waiting on a couple more people for that presentation, so if you don't mind, maybe we could have Stan Cog go first.
Okay. Okay, we have the Executive Director, Rosa Park, if you would, please. And this presentation will be by Stan Cog regarding Transportation Expenditure Plan.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor and members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here in the city of Newman. I just wanted to bring you up to date on some of the things that are going on the Stanislaus Council of Governments. We want to introduce to you what the board members have developed a 2016 expenditure plan overview. So who is StanCog? Many of you may probably know what StanCog is made up of all the elected officials of the region. There's 16 board members, 5 of the county board of supervisors, and I am pleased to announce that the mayor pro tem, Nick Candia, sits in our policy board, and thank you for that. And also member DeMartini, who is here in the audience, is also on our policy board. With that, like I mentioned, it's the 2016 expenditure plan. It's an overview of what we've been working with. The policy board members, in the past, there's been 2 attempts to do half-cent sales tax initiative in 2006 and in 2008. This time, there's been to potentially go in the November ballot. The policy board has been discussing a comprehensive outreach that has been done in the region to provide information to the public as to what they would be supporting if a measure was to be initiated for the November ballot. We've hired a consultant that has been out in the communities, not only in Newman, but all over the region, to do focus groups and to see what would work. What is it that people would be supporting, if any, of self-help? There has been a comprehensive, like I mentioned, a focus groups, but also a statistically valid telephone polling, a survey asking specific questions of what would you support? Not as to would you support X, Y, and Z. It's more what would you support, or what are the needs in your communities? So it's a little different this time. The survey results showed that specific programs and projects were shown, that priorities of what the needs were in each of the communities. Also, if in comparison to what was presented in the past expenditure plans, this time it shows local control at a 65%, meaning that shows that the public is telling us this is what we would like to see. And it's at a 65% where it would be total local control. Newman would show what the needs would be. By unanimous support at the Stanislaus Council of Governments, it was supported on this expenditure plan that I'm going to begin to explain as how it's divided. And also by our management and finance, which is made up of all the city managers in the region. And thank you, Michael Holland. He sits on that committee and provides input in support for Newman. So the board feels that they're well-positioned to move forward with the 2016 expenditure plan. The top priorities that we heard loud and clear, not only on the telephone polling survey, but also on the community outreach that has been done for the last year or so, is repair our potholes to maintain our major streets. Also, what we heard is improve emergency response times for police and fire, make it our roads safer so they can get through. Provide safe routes to school, areas that don't have sidewalks to children, walking on the streets and no sidewalks. Repair potholes on our neighborhood streets. Enhance student safety around schools. Provide point-to-point. This is a service to seniors throughout our county, people that can't use the traditional transit or the dial-a-ride services in our region. Synchronize traffic signals in major streets to reduce the backups, and improve safety to reduce congestion on our local highways. So this is what we heard for this in the area for Newman. And you're probably asking, well, why now come back to us with, you've had 2 failed initiatives in the past, why now? Well, there's Stanislaus Council of Governments administrates the federal and state fundings for the region. Decreased funding is becoming a huge issue for our region. The state money is decreasing. Just recently at the last board meeting, I had to bring to the board's attention that the state is asking the program funds that we had or we're counting on for the future, they're asking us to reduce by $7.43 million, just Stanislaus alone, because they're in a deficit of $750 million statewide. So that is huge. That is an impact that we will be noticing as we move forward, as funds are decreasing. The federal also funding is becoming a little more challenging as to what is available for us. So what we've also learned is that in studies that was done by the federal government, it showed that Modesto's metro area is the 20th worst streets in the country. Not California, the country. That was a shocker for us when we learned that. Also, as I mentioned, the decrease of gas tax funds is becoming a little more difficult. That's how the state provides us and the regions in California with some of our state improvement funding. Vehicles are becoming more efficient in fuel, so it becomes a little more challenging of us to raise more funding for that. In this district, it showed on the voter surveys also that 71% is supportive of an initiative if it stays local and local control. And just a little information, an average cost of your vehicle repairs due to your road conditions, it could cost up to $562 to $712 a year just to, if you have bad roads and you're driving in those bad roads, it creates deterioration to your vehicle. So the expenditure plan. This is what the expenditure plan that was approved in January at the policy board meeting. And as you can see, it shows 50% going to the local street and roads to improve those potholes and the roads, the streets. 5% to bicycle and pedestrian. 10% to traffic management, as we heard on the traffic, on the telephone polling survey, that they wanted to see better movement of congestion on the streets. Regional projects, 28%, and 7% to other. This is a significant change of expenditure plan that had been done or proposed in the past. So now it shows, so the 50% to improve your local streets and roads would bring nearly $480 million for the 25-year of this expenditure plan, breaking it down to a little bit over 19 million per year, and each jurisdiction will receive some of that local funding. Also for the 28%, these projects have not been identified what the regional projects are. We're going to be working with the city managers of each of the cities to discuss, and they're working on their list of what those regional projects may look like. Again, we're looking at $268 million for the 25 years to $10 million per year. The traffic management, it was 96 million for 25 years and 3.8 million per year to make those improvements of relieving congestions on your roadways. And the bicycle and pedestrian projects, there's 48 million for the 25 years or 1.9 million per year. The 7% other is broken down into 4 categories, and I will discuss each one individually. And this is another, and the telephone survey was rated very high, and this was the point-to-point service for seniors. And this was in the region, not just in one area, it was countywide. And this point-to-point service would continue to provide services for seniors that cannot use, again, like I mentioned, the traditional transit that we have. And it would be like $806,000 per year to have this service, to provide service for people going to medical appointments or grocery stores. That is what it's strictly for. The community connections is for those areas in this region. We have some areas that have islands that don't have sidewalks or bus stops or connectivity. This would provide some of those connectivity in the region. And again, it'd be like $806,000 per year, 20 million over the 25 years. And then transit improvement, this helps for transit service now, that if they needed to expand a service or provide just fare box, transit services providers at this time are restricted with fare box ratios, which means that they need to show that they're able to sustain that system, but it's limited. It's very difficult and challenging for the operators in the region. But this would help a little to make expansions without them failing on their fare box. So if they need to test a service, test an area, they might need some improvements on transit. This helps. And for rail related, there's a component for rail, and this is more to provide services maybe for ACE, BART, or the Amtrak stations. ACE was one that was very supportive by the board. However, the telephone polling survey did not show a huge support for it from the citizens that would be voting on this. So we felt that the Amtrak service is going to be expanding some service. We may provide more shuttle to the Amtrak stations, or even to ACE if that is something that the citizens would want in the future. So there's a little area here just to help that as we need it. So that's the breakdown of the 4 categories. The timeline of how we're proposing to continue talking about the expenditure plan. March through May, we're going to continue doing education programs and finalizing our project list. I talked to you about the 50% going to the local street and roads. We're still working with the city managers to go over those project lists and identify what would you fix first for the city of Newman, as an example. What are the priorities that you're going to be fixing that the citizens could see immediately? So we're going to be finalizing those lists and bringing it back to the policy board probably in May, June, after your review, obviously, of the council, but then we'll be bringing it back to the policy board for their final review and approval. There will be another polling or survey just to test to see if the support is still there and how much have we raised the support. And then we will bring it back to the board to see if the Board of Supervisors would place the measure on the November ballot. So those decisions we'll be having in June, July. In August, November, a political action committee will be formed, and that would be separate from StanCog, as we are only here to educate and provide information. That's a campaign group that would be doing or handling a whole different campaign moving forward if this initiative decides to move forward. I will be back to this council showing you the list that have been identified by your staff and the priorities of what we hear in this community that would like to see funded first. So I will be back here probably in May or so to talk about those project lists. And with that, it concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
When this goes up for a vote, is it going to be a 2/3 vote or a simple majority?
2/3.
2/3,
Yes, it's
okay.
66 and 2/3.
Perfect.
And the dollars you were showing in each of those categories, like 500 and something thousand, that's across the entire county?
These dollars, yes, these are divided right now of all the county. However, by consensus vote through the board and also the management and finance, which again is the city manager said, the way the funding or the methodology that will be divided, it will be sales tax. So the sales tax revenues that are received, that's how it would be distributed back to the cities.
Any other question?
Mayor, it should just, to kind of build off of Councilmember Day's comments, the methodology for distributing some of those funding, some of those projects, they'll be countywide because we don't operate a transit system. So most of those would go to STARS or some of the larger FACTS or MAX or whatever the Modesto one is. But the key one is the local one, and the local streets and roads there, and that's at 50%. And the methodology was, and the way people thought was the most fair is, again, it's by sales tax generation. So if you're generating the money should come back to your community.
The problem I see with that, though, is a lot of our residents commute out of town and to Modesto and Turlock to shop, so our money is being spent. It's still going to the county, but we aren't going to see a return on their investment, and they aren't going to see a return on their investment in their own community.
Well, that's not actually true, and what I was going to further say was we generate about 0.7% of the county sales tax, but Houston, Waterford, and ourselves kind of worked together, and we were able to get a floor of 1.25%. So we're actually going to be getting probably about $1.50, $1.60 return for every dollar we generate. So it's going to be fiscally positive for us with respect to a sales tax dollars, and that should bring us back about $250,000 a year minimum to start for local projects, whereby we would only be generating probably closer to maybe 160 to 180. So from a fiscal perspective, Newman, Waterford, and Houston will be getting more dollars back than we actually generate in terms of a sales tax. So I think for the small city that's positive, and the city of Modesto and some of the other cities are giving up some of theirs. The county's giving up some of their dollars so that we could have a floor.
That sounds a little better, because $500,000 doesn't go very far, and by the time that got down to Newman, it would be like $20 or something, and you
Yeah,
can't
and-
do anything with $20.
And some of those ones, again, those are more on county-wide operations. Point to Point is not a city-wide project. Those are county-wide projects. Commute Connections are more county-wide projects. So the ones that are going to be important to us is the local streets and roads, obviously, because that goes to paving of it. Bikes and pads, we'll get a little bit of money there to kind of continue to enhance our particular program. The important thing also is when we do get that money, to try to leverage that into more grant funding and other federal and state funds out there, so that can be a match, kind of like we use LTF for right now. We can use that as a match for larger sums of funds, and that's the goal county-wide as well. As every city in the county out there is trying to use this. If it's successful, we would use this to try to leverage it into more state and federal funding for the area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if I placed the expenditure plan back up. Thank you, City Manager Holland. That is true. 65% would stay here for you, Newman. So it's a huge difference from the last expenditure plans.
Well, that dollar amount over 25 years is substantial. It's not some small number.
It's a very good start. I mean, roads are very difficult to fund. Obviously, there's no funding source, and gasoline prices have come down, and vehicles have gotten more fuel efficient, and so that's why the state is challenged right now to be able to provide enough money to maintain roads. But roads deteriorate really fast. So if you can put some of this money into slurry seals and some of those other things that we typically haven't been able to do, what that does is that preserves the road for a longer period of time and hopefully keeps that up longer. So.
Rosa, thank you very much for coming out tonight and for making your presentation.
Thank you
we
very
all learned something.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you back shortly. Are we ready for the presentation by the Stanislaus County Health and Recovery Services? Oh, we've got a team here tonight.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, we want to thank you for letting us come out to make this presentation today. In your packet, you will find it's called Stand Up for Wellness. It has all the programs that are in the county in here. And here's I call it a cheat sheet. It's numbers that you can call in cases of emergency without having to look them up. And this just tells you about the county board. And then this gives you the supervisory districts. So I did want to point those out to you. And now, I'd like to introduce my colleagues. I'm Rita Sudnikoff, Vice Chair of the Mental Health Board. And this is Jack Waldorf, Chairman of the Mental Health Board. And this is Annie Henrich, Mental Health Board. So what we want to do is let you know about the Mental Health Board roles and responsibilities. And this must be it, Annie.
Okay. Okay, you might wonder why mental health boards exist. It's required by state law in the Welfare and Institutions Code. Members are appointed by the Board of Supervisors to be advisory to the board. And in addition to advising the Board of Supervisors and the Behavioral Health Director, we also look at programs and evaluate them for effectiveness.
So our mission, the Mental Health Board mission, we advocate for the highest possible quality of life for individuals with mental illness. We advocate for the elimination of stigma through public awareness. This is one of the things that we do. We go out in public and talk about what we do. We advocate for the removal of barriers to mental health services. And we provide oversight and work in partnership with the staff of the County Behavioral Health Department.
Mental health membership is made up of 15 members that's approved by the Board of Supervisors. The board membership is supposed to reflect the ethnic diversity of the county. Right now, it doesn't. We're low on Hispanics. 50% of the Mental Health Board membership shall be persons with mental illness or family members of those who are receiving or need mental health services. At least 20% of the membership shall be persons with mental illness, and at least 20% shall be family members. So the members have to be tied in some way to a mental illness. Vacancies are filled based on the supervisorial district. Each district has so many vacancies or so many that represent their area.
This is the map of the supervisorial districts. As you know, of course, Newman is in District Number 5, and the supervisor is Supervisor DeMartini. I had the pleasure of being appointed to the board by him. I live in Ceres. While there are no representatives on our board, sadly, from Newman, we do have a lady on our board who lives in Turlock but does teach here in Newman in the schools. So she's the closest thing that we have to a representative from here. But although we have no openings at present in District 5, if you know of anybody that would be interested in serving on the Mental Health Board from Newman, we'd be delighted to have someone from this area as a representative.
I have applications if anybody wants one.
So for the mental health board, we all on committees. In addition to being on the board, we also are part of the committees. And there are 6 standing committees right now and an executive committees. So the executive committee it's for all the members that are the chair of each committee. So we have a lot of meetings we get together for. So each member of the board is required to be a member of at least one standing committee. Rita is on the Children's System of Care Committee. I'm on the Older Adult System of Care Committee. Jack is at the number 6. He's the Impact Committee chairperson. And then we do have Administrative and Fiscal Management Committee, a Managed Care Committee, which is more in medical and all of that, and then Criminal Justice Oversight Committee. And we also have one of our board member attending the Advisory Board of Substance Abuse Program, which short for APSAP, board meeting once a month.
She says that we're each on one committee. Don't kid yourself. Anyhow, we are governed by the Brown Act, just like you. That means that the public can attend all of our meetings. And so that is just something that we have to let you know.
Probably our most important function is reviewing and evaluating programs. We evaluate the public mental health services as a whole to ensure that they meet the needs of the community. At our meetings, we have presentations by various community agencies, contractors, community groups, and so forth. And we go out and we look at programs and not only talk to the people who are providing the services, but we also talk to the clients who are receiving the services to make sure that they're receiving the services that they need and that they're pleased with the services that are provided. In addition, we also submit an annual report to the Board of Supervisors, which outlines all the things that the board does during that year.
So as you see, it's a lot of responsibility being a mental health board member, and we all are volunteer. We don't get paid. We do it because we want to. So part of the other responsibility that we must attend all mental health board meetings unless excused. We only allowed to miss 3 a year. So, and we take it very seriously. Be a member of at least one mental health board committee. Like I explained before, we do belong to another committee. And we must be familiar with mental health board bylaws. We attend ethic training every 2 years. We review documents and issues and participate actively in meetings. We help develop and implement mental health board goals. We talk to members of the community regarding mental health services and individuals with mental health illness. We must be open to input and feedback from board members staff, and the community, and act as a representative of the mental health board when you have a sanction of the full board.
I want to go back to the review and evaluate. What we do basically, they said we go out and we make site visits, but we're making sure that the money allotted to these different entities is being spent correctly. That's what we're out there to see how they work, why they work, and everything like that. And we report back to the executive committee, which reports to the board of supervisors. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, and this last page is helpful information that how to contact us if anybody should be interested or you know of anyone that's interested. And also, I'd like to say that Newman has one program funded under Prevention and Early Intervention funds, the Promotoris program. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. Hopefully you are. It's a program primarily for Latino women, but it can also include men, and it's a way of reaching them in a way that the mental health department itself could not do. In other words, they would not access our services directly. But with the Promotoris program, they get together for activities, support each other, gradually become, I think, familiar with the services that we provide and less reluctant to access those services should they be needed. Do you have any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment. God bless all of you. You know, I mean, it's like to volunteer your services. There's so many people out there have mental illness. I know we all have family members that have probably gone through something like that. So it's something that's so needed by our communities. And thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And thank you for the opportunity to make the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Rita. Item 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. You see anyone like to get up at this time and make their presentation to the council? Please do so. There being none. Item 8, consent calendar. Excuse me. Waive all readings of ordinance and resolution except by title. B, approval of warrants. C, approval of minutes of February 23rd, 2016 meeting. D, adopt resolution number 2016 next number, a resolution approving amendments to the joint powers agreement of the Stanislaus County Council of Government.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to request that we pull item D from the consent calendar and address it later in the meeting.
Okay. Okay. Is that a motion for the other 3 items then?
And I move to approve the other 3 items, A, B, and C.
I second that.
Okay. Okay, a motion's been made and seconded that we approve the consent calendar with item D being removed, adopt resolution number 2016, next number resolution approving amendments to the joint power agreement of the Stanislaus County of Governments. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carry 4 with 1 absent. Okay. With your pleasure to bring up D at this time?
That would be fine.
Okay.
My concern about this proposed resolution is that in the presentation of the material from the city manager's office, we were advised that the modifications were drafted by the Stancock Management and Board, but were not reviewed by the Management and Finance Committee, which is the city managers, prior to being submitted for our consideration. And I'm just concerned that we be given, our city manager and this council be given the opportunity to truly understand what's being done here. So Mr. Mayor,
Thank you,
City
Councilmember Day.
Manager.
Yeah, and I couldn't remember if I was asleep when this one went through or not, but I asked other city managers, and they don't recall this coming through the management and finance. But I did go back and I asked Stan Cog to give us the original version sent to us wasn't a red line version, so it was very hard to track what the actual changes were going to be, and then they actually middle towards the later half of last week we were able to get that red line version. So in my read on it, a lot of it is just to kind of clarify who's sitting on committee makeups and things like that, and so maybe some cleanup language. But we are very fortunate that Miss Rosa Park, the executive director, is here today. So if she'd like, maybe this would be a good time for her to kind of come up and talk a little bit about the board and the changes and the cleanup language.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening again,
Good evening.
council members. Yes, the joint powers agreement, it's, as I mentioned earlier, on my presentation as to what is STANCOG. It is made up of each of the elected officials of this region. And the JPA had not been, the joint powers agreement, had not been updated in several years. And so we have new committees that were formed at the Council of Governments that are not identified or do not have bylaws, and these are made up of citizens. Like one was the Valley Vision Stanislaus, and that is going to have a new group of other advisory citizen makeup. And so we needed to have that formally addressed. And also some of the other committees that needed to be, some of the formation needed to be addressed of how moving forward. We have a Citizens Advisory Committee of how many membership really should be there and the terms of the committee members. The reason that this was not run through the, I also verify with our staff, through the Management and Finance. Management and Finance is made up of the jurisdictions. So they don't have joint powers agreement or bylaws in their committee, because city managers change or staff, but we still need that membership. So they fall under the big umbrella of the joint powers agreement of the board. And so member Candia sits on that board, and he is the one that is a member representing the city of Newman. But again, these administrative were just administrative changes. One other key that was changed in our bylaws was for the board members. We normally would select a chair and a vice chair every fiscal year, say July. In July, we would start with a new chair and a new vice chair. Well, that's been changed, as we know that members are elected officials are termed or in November. So the body felt that it should be changed maybe to January. So now we changed that to every calendar year. So it was those types of administrative changes that you see on the joint powers agreement. Are there any other questions?
So there are no hidden gotchas.
No, I mean, this was vetted through the policy board several times. It wasn't just done, and it was discussed and talked with their input.
Okay. I was just concerned that we don't get into a situation where we're approving something and find out later that we did ourselves in. And if our city manager had not had an adequate opportunity, along with the other city managers, to review this, and there were some significant changes. But from my understanding from you and from the city manager, this is just an update to reflect the current situation?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
So do we need a motion on D?
Yeah, we need a motion on D, which is adopt resolution number 2016, next number, a resolution approving amendment to the joint power agreement of the Stanislaus Council of Governments.
And I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4 with 1 absent.
And thank you for your clarification, Ms. Parkinson.
Number 9, public hearing. A, adopt resolution number 2016, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members.
Lieutenant Short.
Abatement notices for property maintenance were sent to several properties in accordance with ordinance 95-4, chapter 2, title 8-2-3. This notice informs property owners of all nuisance abatement procedures, options, and their right to object at a public hearing. A final compliance survey was done on March the 7th, 2016, and 2 properties were still not in compliance. This is 1555 Sandy Creek with the tall weeds in the front yard and on the side portion of the yard there. And this one is 2107 Orchard Creek with a large amount of items in the backyard there visible from the street.
Are these homes occupied?
Yes. Oh, well, 1555 Sandy Creek is not occupied, but it is still owned by one property owner who
Oh, yeah.
doesn't live in the area anymore, if I remember correctly. And 2107 is occupied.
2107's been a problem for a long time. It's always been kind of a mess there.
Yeah,
And it
I
has an
think
awkward backyard.
it does. It didn't have a fence line. It just has that cinder or that stuccoed wall right there. But I've seen they've moved some of the items behind a large tarp now. So, but it's still not in compliance. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
At what point does something like this become a health concern?
Well, this property, 2107, with the amount of household items that are in the backyard, yeah, it could be a health concern with rodents and cats making their homes back there amongst that stuff. So we try to get that cleaned up so that we don't have that issue. And then with the 1505, that right now is green, but in here, if the rain stops, it could go dry and be a fire hazard. And also it would attract cats and mice as well.
Anyone have any questions, Lieutenant Short? Being none, I'll bring it back to the council for direction.
Mayor, this is a public hearing.
I'm sorry,
Public hearing.
back me up. It's a public hearing. Is there anyone out there who would like to speak to this issue? You're supposed to kick me. There being none, I'll bring it back to the council for direction.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2016, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 4 with 1 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second part of public hearing is B, adopt resolution number 2016, next number, declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 281, mistletoe abatement.
Good evening, City Mayor and City Council members. The mistletoe is an evergreen parasitic plant that growing on a number of landscape tree species in California. The most effective method for control is through complete removal of the tree branch. So abatement notice for mistletoe removal were sent out to 102 property owners per the Municipal Code, Chapter 9.06, Notice to Abate. As of today, there are still 35 properties that have not removed mistletoes. Therefore, staff recommends City Council adopt a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under Ordinance number 281, mistletoe abatement. I can answer to any question you may have.
I had a question.
Yes.
All these are on their own personal property. None of them are on city property.
Yes, city property, the city trees, our staff, public works staff, started removing the mistletoes. As far as I know, all the public street mistletoe were removed so far. But still, we are still seeing 35 properties, but property owner have not removed those mistletoe.
But the
mistletoe
city
spread
has
out
trees that
really
have
fast.
mistletoe.
Yeah, mistletoe.
The city has trees that have mistletoe?
Yes, we
And
used to
that-
have, because it's spread out, that's why we had to
Yeah, I know.
remove those
A fungus
branches.
that just-
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, we had to respond.
Okay, now, since this is a public hearing,
Yes.
I'll open it to the public for any comments. There being none, I bring it back to the council for direction.
I move that we adopt resolution next number, 2016, declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 281, mistletoe abatement.
Second the motion.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried four with one absent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Number 10, regular business. Report on Newman Crow's Landing Unified School District event at Downtown Plaza.
Back again. The Newman Crow's Landing Unified School District has requested exclusive use of the downtown plaza on August the 13th, 2016, from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. to host a back-to-school informational event. Event organizers have partnered with the Family Resource Center to provide resource information to the community, specific back-to-school information, as well as additional services available through the school district. There will be amplified music for the duration of the event, and of course, no alcohol will be served or sold. And this event currently has no apparent conflicts with any other potential community events. The district has made the following requests: exclusive use of the downtown plaza, use of the plaza restroom facilities and electrical power at the location, and to waive standards for downtown events in the areas of the cleanup deposit. Downtown standards require a $1,000 deposit refundable. Business licenses, downtown standards require all vendors be licensed. Insurance reduction to $1 million from the stated $3 million. Traffic and crowd control devices, the city can use the barricades that we have. Amplified music hours, current standards indicate 10 a.m. They would like to start it earlier than that. And they would like to waive the restroom and electrical power use fees of $25 each. All other standards for downtown events will apply. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? I'd just like to make one comment. You know, I happened to attend this last year, don't have any children in school. It was a great event. I mean, it's something that, I think this is the second year they're doing it, if I'm not
It is.
mistaken. And it was so outstanding that the parents and nobody, I mean, everyone was excited that they could go to one place and get all the information. So if you get a chance, go down to this because it's worthwhile.
It was successful for them to have everything in a one-stop location,
One-stop.
and they pulled out all the stops
Yeah.
with it, and they
Yeah.
plan to do it again this year as well.
Yeah. But thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's bring it back to the council for direction.
I'll make a motion, no, wait a minute. I'll make a motion that we approve, right? Yeah. The use of the Newman Crow's Landing Unified School District to use the downtown plaza for their back-to-school event, and I guess approve all of their requests, yes?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried four with one absent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Item 11, items from District 5, Stanislaus County Supervisor, Mr. Jim D. Martini, and welcome again, Jim. Thank you for coming. We don't take it lightly that you show up.
Well, I always enjoy coming here, so. Anyway, I have just only a couple of things for you tonight. I just wanted to report that the Healthcare Task Force had their meeting here in Newman a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was a very good meeting. We went over our strategic plan and made many changes to it in the future direction that we want, even the board makeup, to add a youth member to it, which is something we've not had before. We talked about the grants that we'd applied for and also the progress we've made on getting a resource center, family resource center in Gustine. So I thought it was a good meeting. I thank the city of Newman for allowing us to use their building and providing some food for us. Our next meeting will be in Patterson on April 7th at the Hammond Senior Center. The agenda for that has not been written yet, but it's still a little ways away. But everything's going really, I think, quite well, and we got our direction for this next year, the programs that we're going to do, and so we know where we're going. The only other thing I have is here, since Stan Cog is here tonight, the executive director. The South County Corridor Feasibility Study will be going to StanCog next week on March 16th. I was never sure this last time I came when it was going to be, but it is the 16th. And this is really not for a vote, but for the presentation of where we're at on the South County Corridor. There were, just so you know where we've been, we've had 97 concepts proposed. That went to 31 concepts, and it's been whittled down to 18, and now it's 3. And so I've talked about them briefly before. 2 of them are go to the north of Patterson, kind of the Zacharias Road area, to a new interchange being proposed. One of those 2 concepts has a separate bridge across the San Joaquin River. And then the third proposal is a southern route that would come from West Main down to Fink Road and to that interchange. So that's where we're at right now. The costs of the concepts were from $215 million to $278. This is one of the things I'm going to question, so you know in advance here that the one that has a separate bridge across the Tuolumne River plus a new interchange is the same as the other one that in the southern route, within just a few million, which is not much in government terms. But it just seems like the estimates for the cost are just way out of proportion to how I see it.
The presentation that she showed us just a little bit ago already had a red line through Patterson out to Turlock.
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
It's like the fix was in, but they're going to have to be honest with the cost when you start building.
I did.
I saw it too, and I'm glad that he pointed out because I wasn't going to do that to you.
It's one of the gotchas.
But we want, of course, the best route to move goods and services from Highway 99 to Highway 5, but the cost, is part of it too. And we have to, have good bang for the buck, since there is no money to build this project right now. But of course, you got to have the plan first. But there's got to be a little bit of honesty. And
like we talked about last time, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you're already replacing the bridge in Crow's Landing or outside Crow's Landing, and the overpass is already there. That it costs the same amount as ones where they have to put both those in.
Well, that's what I really question that too. The county is going to replace the bridge on Crow's Landing Road. That was completely separate funding. For that, the bridge really isn't safe and isn't big enough. So anyway, that's where we're at. Anyway, I want to encourage anybody who has an interest in this, which should be most people on the west side, at the 16th. There'll be some comments made on that. This is a big project. I mean, you're talking about a couple of $100 million, and we've already got a lot of the North County corridor done. We studied to death the Central Corridor. I mean, that's been studied for 50 years. It's still not built yet, but it's getting there. And we hope that the South County Corridor is not going to have to wait as long as the Central Corridor. But, the route is important, and then that, once you settle on the route, then you start buying right away and all that. So it's important that everybody gets some input in there, and that the costs are reflected into what in reality. And I don't see that right now, but we haven't had the meeting yet. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I don't know if there's any other questions I'd be able to answer. I'd be glad to do it.
I got to make a comment. A lot of people don't know a lot about the West Side Healthcare Task Force, but it moves along at a snail pace. And Jim can tell you, everything takes so long, and it's amazing. We started off with not a lot of members. Now, the last meeting, I think there was 22 people present. And it's a great cross-section of the community, healthcare people. And it's amazing how they've come together for the West Side to do something about healthcare and giving the West Side an opportunity to have a better standard of living and improve their health. But
I appreciate your comments, because the task force was created to improve medical facilities here in the West Side, and also to promote healthier lifestyles. So the new doctors that we brought here, you won't need to use them. I would say. I
Maybe
had a
we
meeting
start
with
getting our
the,
grants.
I had a meeting today with the Golden Valley, for them to contribute to our organization again. We had a very good meeting. I also talked to Livingston Health too, who's coming to our next meeting. So we're, a group of municipal governments, the school districts, business community, counties, and healthcare professionals, and that's what makes up the Healthcare Task Force. And we just look at the west side and what improvements can we make to make things better for the people who live here, and that's really what we're all about. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We're all volunteers on that, although we do have one part-time person who does some outreach, but I think that we're all working together, and I think that's the thing in government, is when you all work together, you can get something done. When you squabble and fight with each other and pull in different directions, you get nothing done. I'm going to say the task force is always pulled together. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, item 12, items from the city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just a few quick updates. First, Northwest Quadrant. We're expecting that the EIR is going to be an administrative draft released to staff for a review this month. Once we get that, we'll work out a full schedule as to when that'll be released to the public. We'll hold another property owners meeting here so everybody gets up to date on it. Ultimately, that EIR will be released to the public for their comments, then we'll go to Planning Commission, City Council, and the like. So that's moving along nicely. As part of that, the Finance Director and I are looking at some of the costs that are associated with the Northwest Quadrant, and some of those costs are for infrastructure, and some of the other things that we're going to have to talk to the property owners about fees, what fees are going to be appropriate, and supplemental fees that are going to be out there. So we will be working with them on that as well. Last week I met with the county with respect to Northwest Quadrant. We talked about a master property tax agreement. Right now we currently have a master property tax agreement with the county whereby they keep all the base tax, then they get 70% of the ups and we get 30. So not the fairest, but I didn't negotiate it. The conversation that we had last week was with respect to the non-residential uses, so commercial and in business park and professional office, and we're moving more in that direction of a 50-50 split on property taxes. So that'll be helpful for us as new businesses come in. As you know, Northwest Quadrant is projected to have 2,000 jobs, permanent jobs, as part of that development. So there's a lot of commercial that would go out there in terms of both business park, professional office, and community commercial. Community commercial is considered like shopping center kind of stuff. That would go out there on that west side. And we're hoping to provide support services to Keystone large businesses out there, as well as Crow's Landing Air Base when that develops out there as well. As you know, we don't have the vast amount of land that you're seeing up there in Keystone to put a 1,500,000 square foot facilities down there, but if we're providing support services there, we're hoping to get some high-tech jobs that will support some of the technology and the infrastructure that's going on over there. So we've also met with LAFCO on that project as required by state law. So everything's kind of moving along, and hopefully we'll be getting you some more information here shortly with the schedule as to when that can be projected to be in front of the Planning Commission and ultimately in front of the City Council and then annexed. This coming Friday, the Finance Director and I are meeting with the county with respect to the potential to fund the Aquatic Center. As you know, you've kind of directed staff to put together a program that you could vote on to put a measure on the November ballot that would support the construction and maintenance of a aquatic center. So we're trying to create as many partnerships as we can as we prepare all that information. One of the partners that our supervisor was very kind to recommend, and we had some preliminary conversations with the county CEO, is the potential for the county to fund the construction of it. And what I mean by that is they would lend us some money, and then if it passes, through our revenues, we would pay them back. And just doing some back of the envelope kind of numbers, that would save our citizens probably $500,000 or more over the long term. And that doesn't even include interest, because we wouldn't have to have bond counsel, we wouldn't have to send bonds. So all the money that ultimately comes in from the revenues from a measure would stay local in terms of within Newman and Stanislaus County, as opposed to going to outside investors. So we'll be working with the county CEO on Friday and hopefully making some progress towards that and getting some kind of agreement on there. We've also been working with our consultants, which is NBS. NBS is a firm that's going to help us put together the measure. They're going to do the boundary map for us, and they're going to put together the resolutions, and they've kind of given us a schedule for getting things on the calendar. And then FM3. FM3 is a consulting firm that helped us with the polling, the community survey that we did. The important piece that FM3 has will help us shape what the title of the measure is and what the summary says. So we have 75 words to do that. So they're going to help us with that as well as NBS. So there's a lot of moving parts to getting this to you in a timely manner so that you can get this on the November ballot. But we have our schedule, and we've been working with our consultants, and we will meet that timeline. So at least give you the opportunity to review it one last time and decide whether or not you want to put that on the November ballot. As part of that, there is a group, the mayor signed some letters, and we thanked all of our community committee members. And the community committee that kind of worked on the Aquatic Center project, their work's kind of done from that perspective of the community. But on March 21st, in our community meeting room, there's going to be a PAC, a Political Action Committee meeting, where they're going to have a discussion about forming a political action committee to help support the promotion of a potential measure after if you guys decide to put one on there. So that meeting will be at March 21st in the community meeting room at 5 p.m. So if anybody's interested, you're welcome to attend on that. As you know, the city can only provide educational materials on that. We can't promote a measure either way, but through the formation of a PAC, that could be done. The skate park has come to a critical point. We're at a fish or cut bait point, so basically I'll be meeting with the contractor on Friday, and we'll make a decision in whether or not we're going to move forward with that contractor, or we're going to have to rebid this particular project. It's the contractor's coming out and requesting things that aren't in the bid specs and trying to operate outside what he agreed to as part of bidding on the project. And so we'll see if we can come to a common ground on what needs to be done to move this project forward or not. So that may be coming back to you. We're hoping that we get this project, the ground broken, and get moving on this project as soon as it dries out, but there's no guarantee on that. So hopefully, again, at your next meeting, I'll give you an update on that. And then lastly, we did our presentation on from StanCog today, and I want to thank Ms. Parks for doing that presentation on the expenditure plan. At your leisure, and over the next week or 2 weeks, if there are streets or improvements that are important to you as an individual council member, please make sure you email those to me, and then we'll work with staff and then ultimately come back with a final list for you in terms of what we want to do with any transportation money that would come forward to us if that half-cent sales tax is approved. So, we each drive different routes every day, so the things that Councilmember Day sees on a regular basis may not be necessarily the same ones that Councilmember Graham sees every day, but with all of your eyes looking at that, we can put together a good list, I think, that will reflect what our community wants to see in terms of improvements to our transportation network. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Just off the top of my head, East Inyo and Canal School Road.
Yeah. And we actually have some grant money for Inyo and Canal School Road, and it's going, I think we're spending about $125,000 on some design and some environmental work this year. Is that program for 17, 18, 16?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have construction money already built in for fiscal year 17-18 to do some substantial improvements in that area. So 16-17 will be a design year, 17-18 will be a construction year.
Any other questions for the city manager? Being none, staff?
I have nothing tonight.
Nothing. Okay.
Good evening again. I have a very brief presentation regarding the hexavalent chromium, aka chromium-6, as well as a water system update. Because several residents and Councilmember Graham raised some question regarding the status of the chromium-6. That's why this brief presentation will be really helpful to understand where we are at in terms of compliance as well as the water system in the future. Just for information, the city of Newman has 4 water wells, the potable water well. Well number 5, which has 800 GPM, gallon per minute capacity. And well number 6, 1200 GPM. Well number 1R, that's a 1200 GPM. That is for the water tower. And our major well, well number 8, 2600 GPM, which is right next to the Barrington Park. So overall, we have total flow capacity is 5,800 GPM. But in the past, we saw that the peak flow, peak demand was 3,500 GPM. That means we have good capacity at this point. So chromium-6 standard. Everybody heard that there's some change recently. So those 4 key point can explain the chromium-6 issues really well. The chromium-6 is naturally occurring in the basin. It's everywhere in basin. It's not the chemical, very specific chemical from urbanized areas. No, it's naturally occurring in the basin. The water quality remains same, but the state standard has changed. I'm going to explain a little bit further regarding that. So as of today, the US EPA standard on total chromium means including chromium-6 and 3, is 100 ppb, part per billion. The state of California total chromium level was 50 ppm prior to July 2014. So this is a major change in chromium-6. July 2014 MCL is called maximum contaminant level, MCL, has been changed from 50 ppb to 10 ppb. It's dramatic change. So the state of California standard is way more stringent, way higher than US EPA. Because of the change, one city well number 5, which is a backup well, actually exceeded 10 MCL because the average, the chromium-6 level was 17 last year. So many people concerned about this new standard. However, the state provide the template languages for the public notification. So these 2 languages can explain the chromium-6 issues really well. For example, what should I do? You do not need to use an alternative water supply, for example, bottled water. This is not an immediate risk. If it had been, you would have been notified immediately. These 2 languages provided by the state. So we sent out this letter to all the water users in the city. It means that there's no immediate risk. However, the state thinks that there's a long-term impact. But still, please keep in mind that the state of California, the standard is way higher than the US EPA. Plus, our water system, the water quality remains same. There's no change in the water quality. So this graph shows that the chromium-6 level, city has monitored the chromium-6 level from 2001, and eventually As you can see, the lines in red, that's the well number 5 we recently put as a standby. So actually, the water quality has been improved since the state announced a new standard. But still, we got to deal with the new standard in the future. So as city manager, Mr. Holland has just explained about the Northwest Quadrant project. So the city's the highest, the priority project for the water is the new water storage tank in that location. In order to implement a really good project for improving our water quality as well as improving the equipment, the facilities, city has developed several strategies. Especially, we are looking for 3 major grants throughout the program in there. The first one is Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, and the Proposition 1, Integrated Regional Water Management Disadvantaged Community Involvement Grant, and Proposition 1, Groundwater Sustainability Grant. Those grants will be available very soon. Especially the State Revolving Fund is available, so the city will be submitting the application this month for the several major water projects, which include new storage tank with booster pumps, and Chromium-6 compliance alternative analysis, which include some blending options, the shallow water wells for parks. So normally our potable water system is like a minimum 450 to 500 feet deep, but however, shallow well is only 150 feet deep. Even though water quality is a little less than the deep system, but still that's enough for the large turf areas, for example, parks, because the grass doesn't require really high standard. So that will reduce the burden on our water capacity in the future. That's a really good project in the future. And update our water master plan and water capital improvement project and groundwater characterizations. The project will be implemented throughout the grant. I can answer to any question you may have.
Just a comment, you know, the EPA, like you say,
Yes.
their standards is much higher than the state.
Yes.
And I believe the state is providing a lot better protection.
Yes.
And I think EPA, I have concerned about them. And I'm saying we ought to be thankful that our state established standards
Yes.
that make sense, you know, because years ago, you know, this parts per million, you never saw anything. When you
Yes.
start looking at parts per billion, then you see things you never saw before in your life. So we have to be very careful because you're dealing with people's health, you know.
That's right.
We know, we all follow the news in Flint, Michigan,
That's
the
right.
problems they had, and
Yes.
we don't want to Flint, Michigan and the state of California, that's for sure. But anyway, thank you very much for your presentation.
Welcome.
Yeah, like the mayor was saying, there's a lot of people concerned with water right now because of all the instances in the news, so I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Okay. Keith, have you anything tonight for?
Mayor, council, just want to update you guys. I'm working with the local ambulance company on some resource sharing, just kind of like an understanding while we're responding to medical aids. We use medical equipment. So I'll be meeting with them at their board meeting a couple weeks from now. So we'll see how that turns out, and I might have something across your guys' desk after that. And then also just want to take this time to remind everyone, as the clocks change, we need to check our batteries and our smoke detectors and test our smoke detectors. And that's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you for the update. Yeah. And council, Casey?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay.
Just an observation, Mr. Kim. Inyo, over near Yolo School, on the east, coming back east from Yolo School, it looks like the sewer line is dropping, and since the rain has come, it's gotten significantly worse. There's probably a 2-inch lip around the edge of the manhole cover there. So I know that stretch of road is kind of rough anyway, but
Okay.
that particular place looks like it's developing a sinkhole right around the sewer line there.
Yeah, after the meeting, please.
I'll show you
yeah,
where it is.
Yes, and then we will respond to that
Okay.
site right away.
Just want to, I know there's been a few years since we had to worry about it, but who's monitoring the Orst Timber Creek and the railroad?
We monitor it, excuse me, we monitor it online, and then our chief plant operator, Lance Perry, looks at it every day as he comes into work. So
Okay.
I think the last flow, I think it got up to, what do we say, 3,000 CFS?
I think it was like 33.
Yeah, I got about 33, but we also have a projection that's already dropping. So 33 was a peak, and that was earlier last week.
Right.
And
I went by and looked at it this weekend, too.
yeah, the gates are down on Bell Road and Anderson Road over there. So, but it's not. It hasn't reached a critical point at this point.
We've got a big one coming this weekend, too. So.
Yeah. Mike was saying that he thought it read under 1,000 today. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
if you'd like, I can send any of you the link to view that online.
Yeah, that'd be
So, and
Yeah,
it's
that'd
it's
be
a
nice.
chart that just kind of shows what the flow is. I'll just send it out to each of you as the council members that way.
Right.
If you're at home or something, you just want to check it and see what it looks like, then that's the way to look at it. It's a graph.
Okay.
Only comment I have, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Rosa, I'd like to especially thank you for coming to our little town and making your presentation, and thank you. Yeah, thank you. And Jim, thank you for coming. And with that, I'd ask for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, motion's made and second to adjourn.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
4-1.